I guess when I see someone else going through like a press thing, like if someone's like beating up on someone in the press, I just like immediately get really sad. Like that's because I know that's probably like blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
The absolute most impressive sleight of hand Taylor Swift has ever executed wasn't packing arenas on a global tour or dropping those remastered records. No, it was making everyone buy into the idea that she wasn't right there next to Blake Lively as the blade twisted into Justin Baldoni's spine. Think back to that May press release from her camp, claiming she had zero involvement with It Ends With Us. Never stepped onto the filming location, no say in who got cast, no input on artistic choices, just loaned out a tune, like the other 19 musicians did. That was the official line. That's what they fed us. But it came off less like honest facts and more like a polished script vetted by a squad of attorneys and some empathy expert. Now, though, the judiciary has ripped open the evidence files, and I want you to read what Taylor Swift personally keyed in with her fingers because it's ugly. It's downright awful. We'll kick off with April 2023. Blake shoots Taylor a message begging for backup. And by backup, I don't mean casual advice. This was a plea for heavy artillery. She's pushing for alterations to the screenplay that Justin Baldoni hadn't signed off on, and she wants Taylor to barge in and strong-arm him. Blake labels him the idiot helming my film, brands him a fool, claims he's pretending to be a screenwriter these days. But the trash talk is just window dressing. The real demand is the killer blow. Blake has covertly overhauled a screenplay, one the director hasn't greenlit, one that has to be shoved down his throat for the shoot. She requires a powerhouse. She calls in the big guns. She urges Taylor to back it. But this detail floored me. Blake adds, "You don't need to go through it." Naturally, no need to bother reading. She's pressuring Taylor Swift, arguably the top lyricist on the planet, to slap her endorsement on its sight unseen because it's not about the quality of the words. It's about the overwhelming force of the celebrity. It's about bullying. And Taylor fires back, "Anything for you, I'll handle it." So Taylor arrives at Blake's luxury apartment. Baldoni's present. He assumes it's a standard discussion about his project. He's clueless about the incoming assault. And we have the full rundown because Blake messaged Taylor post-meeting like she just won the war. She types, "You were incredibly valiant today." I replayed every second to Ryan. Kept recalling bits. "You spinning tales about me and camera angles, calling yourself my puppet." This Joker swallowing it all, yet pushing back too. "You're the ultimate best friend in existence." Hold up, absorb that once more. "You spinning tales." They're giggling over deceiving him outright. Taylor Swift fabricating nonsense about lenses to coerce a filmmaker into swallowing screenplay revisions for a film she allegedly had no stake in. That's far beyond merely permitting a track. That's executing a blockade in a ruthless coup. And it escalates from there. 48 hours on, Justin attempts to patch things up. He informs Blake he appreciated the updated sequence and insists he'd have felt the same absent the coercion. He's aiming for professionalism. He's offering peace. Blake's reply? She rejects the gesture. She slams down the gauntlet. She declares that Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift are her fire-breathing guardians. Then she adds, "Everyone gains from her ties to Reynolds and Swift, including you." I guarantee it. That's not camaraderie. That's extortion. It reeks of a gangster ultimatum. She's warning her own director that two entertainment titans will either shield him or obliterate him based on his compliance. The threat lingers like a fog, cooperate or the beasts awaken. But hold on, it doesn't stop. Because the soundtrack was the snare. Jump to April 2024. They're exchanging notes on the promo clip, specifically Taylor's track featuring in it. This is where the just permitted a song fairy tale crumbles. Taylor responds, "If Justin had any smarts, he'd veto Taylor Swift in the trailer since that hands you extra leverage over the production." That's your weapon, not his. She's mentoring Blake. She's breaking down how her tunes aren't mere background noise. They're a banner. They claim dominance. She's instructing Blake that Baldoni was an idiot for including her song because now Blake holds the reins. She understands precisely how her image operates and how to wield it as a blade. And Blake shoots back, spot on. He should have fled from your tracks. What a moron. This was his sole chance to pretend he had control. What a moron. That's their view of him. They're ridiculing him. The guy who handed Blake the starring spot. He slotted Taylor's hit into his preview, and they're jeering at him for placing faith in them. Sneering at him for viewing a smash single as a boon when it was really a sabotage device meant to rob him of his command. But the absolute lowest point, the one that twisted my guts. December 2024. Mere days before the New York Times unleashes that smear article on Baldoni. The one Blake's crew orchestrated. The one crafted to demolish him preemptively. Taylor and Blake are chatting about it. They're aware it's inbound, and they're observing him detect the brewing chaos. And Taylor Swift, the icon who forged a fortune on anthems about compassion, about fate's revenge, about getting tormented by influential guys. Keys in this. I bet this wimp senses trouble brewing because he's pulling out his minuscule fiddle. This wimp. Taylor Swift dubbing Justin Baldoni a wimp. She's deriding him for picking up on the ruin headed his way. She's chuckling at his tiny fiddle as her closest ally gears up to implode his existence. Zero compassion exists here. Zero mercy. Just the savagery of the invincible. So, let's circle back to that press blurb fast. Taylor never visited the set. Sure, she merely popped into the penthouse for the setup. She had no role in creative calls, except she vouched for a screenplay she skipped reading and fibbed to bully the director into approval. She never viewed a cut or offered feedback, yet she dissected the trailer and tutored Blake on leveraging her music for dominance. She didn't catch the flick until long after premiere. But she foresaw the attack article. She branded him a wimp while anticipating its impact. Each clause in that release might hold up under narrow scrutiny, but ethically, it's a declaration of moral insolvency. And currently, Taylor's gone radio silent. No snaps alongside Blake, no overt backing, no declaration, zilch. I'll confess, at first I figured Taylor pulling away from Blake was her setting boundaries. But my instinct screamed it was phony. It smacked of one of her lame tracks. Ambiguous enough to spark speculation, pointed enough to seem deliberate, hollow enough to disavow down the line. But now it's clear why it rang false. With the messages exposed, she wasn't some unwitting spectator pulled into the fray. She was on site. She arrived primed to deceive. She directed the tactics. She taunted him as they plotted his downfall. She wasn't a passive observer. She was the beast. Blake proclaimed it directly. Here are the undeniable truths from the judicial records. Uncontested by Blake's attorneys. Taylor dubbed him an idiot and a fool. Taylor deceived him straight up. Taylor guided Blake in turning her music into a tool of war. Taylor was privy to proof before it was properly acquired. Taylor labeled him a wimp mere weeks before they aimed to shatter his profession. Taylor Swift and her squad sold us one narrative, but her private exchanges paint a wildly contrasting picture. The sole cause for her current hush is that any utterance could be pitted against her actual words. Blake hailed Taylor as the planet's supreme ally. I suspect Justin Baldoni has an entirely different term for it. Hit like and subscribe. We're just scratching the surface. Thousands of documents remain unexplored. The total dismantling of Blake Lively is on the horizon. That's my take.